Imagine awakening one morning to realize that the majority of individuals surrounding you have ceased questioning reality, that our world has grown so chaotic, so accelerated, and so overwhelmed with data that the human intellect, formerly a magnificent instrument for investigation, analysis, and development, has deteriorated into passive compliance. Consider this scenario. What occurs to a civilization when analytical reasoning disappears? When the capacity to analyze, contest, and contemplate gets substituted by instantaneous responses, superficial viewpoints, and communal echo chambers. Throughout this exploration, we shall reveal the alarming reality behind the vanishing of analytical thinking and the perilous emergence of what certain thinkers currently term collective ignorance, a condition where multitudes embrace superficial reasoning, unconsciously accept stories, and relinquish their mental autonomy without awareness. At the conclusion of this expedition, we will discover the most compelling and critical reality of all. One that might decide whether we reclaim our consciousness or surrender it completely to a framework engineered to maintain us pleasantly disconnected. But before we continue, please like this video, share it with people who might appreciate it, and write in the comments which city you're following our YouTube channel from. Let us commence with a disturbing reality. Reasoning is challenging, and in our current era it's frequently discouraged. The contemporary landscape doesn't compensate contemplation. It compensates velocity, emotional reactions, and compliance. This isn't coincidental. From systems that supply only desired content to academic institutions that emphasize memorization above investigation, society actively programs us away from analytical thought. The intellectual Noam Chomsky cautioned about this generation's past. Through his examination of media and propaganda, he demonstrated how authority structures depend on what he termed the creation of agreement. When individuals learn to consume without questioning, to concur without comprehending, they become manageable and easily misled. Analytical thinking, previously regarded as essential human ability, now appears inconvenient. It obstructs outrage culture. It decelerates online arguments. It confronts belief systems. It dares inquire, is this genuinely accurate? The issue penetrates deeply. A primary factor is the information bombardment we encounter daily. Neuroscientist Daniel Levitin states average individuals currently process quintuple the information daily compared to recent decades. We face constant notifications, messages, breaking developments, perspectives, advertisements, and updates every conscious moment. Our minds weren't designed for such input. When overwhelmed, the brain takes shortcuts. It depends on mental patterns, cognitive prejudices, and collective thinking to manage complexity. Instead of evaluating concepts analytically, it seeks signals from others, particularly peers, influencers, or recognized authorities. This represents social validation. While natural survival mechanism, it's easily exploited. Consider how frequently you've observed online posts with thousands of interactions and presumed importance. That's not reasoning, that's psychological shortcuts enabling collective ignorance to spread. Not because people lack intelligence, but because they're trained to follow signals rather than reason. Another concerning pattern is declining reading habits, particularly deep reading. Neuroscientist Marian Wolf explains how digital media rewires our brains. We skim more, jump between content, and struggle maintaining focus on extended texts. Critical thinking demands sustained attention. You cannot analyze, reflect, or truly comprehend with constantly fragmented attention. When did you last read complete articles without checking devices? When did you pause after hearing provocative content to think rather than react? These previously common habits are vanishing. Carl Sagan, one of the 20th century's brilliant minds, warned, "We inhabit a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, where virtually nobody understands science and technology." His concern wasn't merely ignorance, but erosion of ability to think analytically about systems we depend upon. In a world filled with opinions, quick takes, and ideological warfare, the greatest rebellion is quietly thinking clearly. The problem isn't solely technological or educational, it's emotional. Critical thinking brings discomfort. It forces acknowledging incomplete knowledge. It challenges egos. It creates cognitive dissonance where cherished beliefs conflict with new evidence. In cultures valuing certainty, confidence, and identity above all, this proves deeply threatening. Instead of thinking, we defend. We retreat into tribes. We repeat mantras. We cancel. We avoid. We memorize slogans instead of engaging in dialectic, the honest Socratic dialogue that has powered philosophical evolution for millennia. What we witness isn't merely declining thought. It's social transformation toward mental laziness. Consequences prove devastating because when people stop thinking, they stop questioning. When questioning ceases, they become vulnerable to manipulation, propaganda, fear. The question we must ask: who benefits when populations no longer think independently? Understanding collective decline requires examining how systems evolved not to nurture critical thought but suppress it. Begin with education. John Taylor Gatto, award-winning teacher and outspoken critic of traditional schooling, argued modern education doesn't create independent thinkers. Schools primarily teach obedience to orders. Gatto claimed compulsory education was designed during industrial periods not to enlighten students but prepare them for factory life. Predictable, obedient, non-disruptive. Instead of teaching how to think, we learn what to think. Children are evaluated not on originality or depth but memorization and regurgitation ability. Conformity receives rewards. Curiosity becomes distraction. This pattern continues beyond school into adult life. Workplace, media, friendships teach that speaking out, questioning consensus, or holding unpopular views costs us. Fear of social exclusion, being labeled difficult or controversial silences pressing doubts. Silence becomes complicity over time. Psychologist Eric Fromm observed this in Escape from Freedom, explaining how many secretly desire surrendering thought freedom because genuine freedom brings responsibility, and responsibility terrifies. Thinking independently means no longer blaming others for ignorance. You cannot find comfort in crowds. You must face truth's uncertainty. So we choose comfort, distraction, simplicity over complexity, becoming easier to control. Social media accelerated this problem immeasurably. Former spaces for global connection became battlefields of opinion wars, outrage cycles, algorithmic manipulation. Every platform keeps you scrolling, reacting, consuming, not thinking. You're nudged toward belief-confirming content, encouraged to respond instantly, emotionally, angrily. Platforms reward engagement, not truth. They thrive on division, not understanding. Amidst this noise, reason's voice drowns. Thoughtfulness appears slow, weak, irrelevant. Why reflect when reacting earns more likes? Marshall McLuhan foresaw this in the 1960s. He warned the medium is the message. Information reception methods change thinking patterns. Today's mediums encourage speed over depth, outrage over nuance, certainty over humility. Truth itself becomes distorted. In misinformation ages, truth matters less than virality. People no longer evaluate ideas based on evidence or logic but agreement numbers. This represents cognitive tyranny of majority in dangerous form. Where do we proceed? Begin asking better questions, challenging status quo, demanding real answers rather than slogans or context-stripped statistics. What are you told to believe? Who benefits from that belief? What assumptions underlie your certainty? How often do you seek opposing views not to attack but understand? These aren't easy questions but necessary ones because collective stupidity's antidote isn't just intelligence. It's courage. Courage to be wrong, to learn, to admit ignorance and begin knowing anyway. Socrates, earliest critical thinking champion, famously claimed, "True wisdom lies in knowing you know nothing." This wasn't self-deprecation but invitation to remain curious. Keep asking. Maintain intellectual humility facing a vast, mysterious world. Today, humility is rare. Certainty is worshipped. Arrogance masquerades as wisdom. Everyone has opinions. Few have understanding. Everyone wants to speak. Few want to listen. True thinkers are often quiet, observant, reserved. They know wisdom grows not from noise but silence, contemplation, deep complexity engagement. This is why critical thinkers are often outnumbered and ignored. In cultures rewarding speed and spectacle, slow thinking processes stand little chance. But it must not be abandoned. Once you surrender independent thinking ability, you're no longer free. You become a puppet with strings pulled by unseen forces. These forces aren't abstract, they're economic, political, cultural. Companies profiting from mindless content addiction. Politicians relying on emotional reactions. Institutions depending on unquestioning obedience. When you reclaim your mind, everything changes. You become harder to manipulate. You see through illusions. You stop being passive idea consumer and become active truth seeker. In that act, however small, you light fires that have burned through history in philosophers, scientists, revolutionaries, and truth-tellers who refuse to stop thinking. To truly understand collective stupidity's rise, we must explore the mind's battlefield. Despite logical faith, human brains are more emotional than rational. We believe decisions are fact-based, but reality is complicated. In groundbreaking work, Thinking, Fast and Slow, Nobel Prize-winning psychologist Daniel Kahneman showed brains operate using two systems. One fast and instinctive, another slow and deliberate. Fast systems are quick, automatic, emotional, jumping to conclusions, making snap judgments, conserving energy. Slow systems are thoughtful, analytical, cautious, but require effort. In high-speed, always-on worlds, most people remain stuck in fast mode. No time or will exists to slow down and think deeply. We rely on heuristics, stereotypes, and mental shortcuts that feel right but are often wrong. This creates fertile ground for mass manipulation. Politicians, marketers, media outlets understand exploiting mental shortcuts. They package complex issues into simple binaries. Use emotionally charged language bypassing reason. Prime us with repeated narratives until accepted as truth, not because verified but because familiar. Once we accept something as true, brains begin defending that belief regardless of evidence. This is confirmation bias, one of existence's most powerful cognitive traps. How often do you seek evidence contradicting your beliefs? How often do you truly listen to opposing arguments rather than preparing counterpoints? Another key concept is groupthink, psychological phenomena where harmony or conformity desires lead to irrational or dysfunctional decisions. It's documented in corporate disasters to historical atrocities. People silence doubts for unity's sake. Choose consensus over truth. Social psychologist Irving Janis, who coined the term, found even highly intelligent, well-intentioned people make catastrophic decisions when suppressing dissent and avoiding critical evaluation. Challenging groups feels unsafe. Going against grain requires more than intelligence. It requires integrity and courage. History shows progress comes from those daring to think differently. Galileo, Darwin, Nietzsche, Martin Luther King all rejected, ridiculed, attacked for ideas. But they thought anyway, spoke anyway. Their willingness to challenge collective ignorance shaped today's world. Make no mistake, there's a cost. Thinking critically in society's punishing doubt is rebellious. You risk misunderstanding, ostracism, hatred, but you gain something invaluable. Clarity, self-respect, quiet power knowing your beliefs are yours, not programmed. Why do so many feel lost, anxious, unfulfilled despite accessing more information and technology than previous generations? The answer lies not in what we have but what we've lost. Greatest losses include inner dialogue habits, ability to sit with questions, explore them, allow truth to emerge through reflection. We've outsourced thinking to machines, media, public opinion. No algorithm reveals personal truth. No trending topic replaces inner voice. No mass movement substitutes quiet certainty of well-examined beliefs. What can we do? Start cultivating awareness of mental habits, consume sources, when we're thinking versus reacting. Powerful practice is metacognition, thinking about thinking. Ask, what influences my opinion? Am I open to being wrong? Am I engaging with ideas or passively absorbing? Another is deliberate dialectical thinking, holding opposing ideas in tension while exploring them. This isn't just intellectual flexibility. It's mental strength allowing movement beyond binaries, us versus them, into realms where understanding is born. Philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti said, "To understand the immeasurable, minds must be extraordinarily quiet, still. That stillness, rare in our age, is where wisdom seeds grow. Critical thinking isn't acquired overnight. It's discipline. Requires reading not just headlines but books, full arguments, nuanced thought. Requires listening not just to agreement but especially disagreement. Requires humility, accepting uncertainty as path part. Above all, requires rejecting intellectual laziness. If something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. If everyone believes something unquestioningly, that's your pause cue. Not to rebel automatically but investigate honestly. In times when ignorance is loud and confidence mistakes for competence, thinking deeply isn't just personal virtue, it's public service. Any society's future depends not on opinion volume but thought quality. Most powerful change begins not with mass movements but one person choosing clear thinking in worlds that don't. At this entire crisis's heart, beneath digital noise, failing institutions, cultural polarization, something more insidious exists. Critical thinking's real disappearance reason isn't incapability but fear of what it might reveal. Thinking critically risks everything, providing psychological safety, identity, beliefs, tribe. For many, these things are too precious to question. We live when identity becomes sacred. People define themselves by opinions, affiliations, ideologies. Challenging ideas appears as personal attacks. This illusion destroys thought that we are our ideas. You are not your political party, not your religion, not your social group. You are human beings with evolution, learning, changing capacity. That evolution journey begins when detaching worth from current beliefs. Final, most important truth. Critical thinking isn't just intellectual skill. It's spiritual act. It honors truth over comfort, growth over certainty, freedom over approval. This quiet decision to live with open eyes even when light burns. Once you start thinking critically, you begin seeing surrounding structures, manipulation systems, control algorithms, masks people wear. Can be overwhelming, painful, but it's real. Reality, however uncomfortable, is the only foundation upon which true freedom builds. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their souls." Yet facing inner worlds, unconscious motives, inherited beliefs, cognitive traps is thinking's essence. Critical thinking isn't just questioning worlds, it's questioning yourself. When asking those questions honestly, new worlds open. Not just knowledge worlds but wisdom ones. Wisdom is what our society starves for. In quick answer addicted cultures, wisdom invites deeper questions. In noise-built systems, wisdom offers silence. In mass conformity eras, wisdom dares freedom. This is your invitation not just to think but wake up, stop living as environment products and start becoming mind architects. No school, system, social media platform will do this for you. The responsibility is yours alone. When you rise to it, something extraordinary happens. You begin seeing with clarity. You feel what living in truth alignment is like. Not borrowed truth, not popular truth, but your own hard-earned truth. You notice when manipulation targets you. You see differences between information and propaganda, education and indoctrination, connection and performance. Most importantly, you begin leading not with noise, not ego, but depth. You become light in dark rooms, calm voice in outrage storms, grounded thinker in reactionary worlds. This is what the world needs now more than ever. Not louder voices, not sharper arguments, but deeper minds. Minds willing to sit in complexity. Minds willing to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn. Minds no longer seeking debate victories, but understanding reality. If you want to change worlds, start by changing how you think. Not because it's easy, not because it's popular, but because it's right. Collective stupidity's rise isn't a cause, it's a symptom of fear, fatigue, worlds too distracted to look inward. But every clear thinking act pushes back against that tide. Every reflection moment instead of reaction. Every question instead of assumed answer. Every clarity choice over comfort reclaims your power. As we end this journey, remember the most revolutionary thing you can do now is not shout, not conform, not repeat, but think. Let others sleepwalk through slogans and screens. Let them trade freedom for validation. But not you. You are awake now. Once awakened, you can never return. If this message resonated, share it. Not because it's trendy, but because it's necessary. Leave comments with reflections, doubts, insights. Critical thinking doesn't grow in silence, it grows in dialogue. If you're still with me, know this: you are not alone. A quiet revolution is happening. A movement not of noise but minds, not outrage but awareness. It begins every time one person chooses harder questions. Let that person be you. Stay curious. Stay awake. Above all, keep thinking.